Alrighty, here we go. Hello and welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here for our Spring Career Quest. My name is Ariel Pizzini. I'm part of the Careers and Professional Development team here at WGU. If this is your first time attending a virtual event here with us, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Um, Request is part of our month-long webinar series where we bring together students, alumni, recruiters, industry leaders, and experts to share insights and opportunities. We're so excited to have you with us today as we explore career paths and opportunities with STARS Therapy Services. In today's session, we'll hear from Monique Valdivia, as well as HR Director and WGU alum Tony De Leon, who will share his career journey, professional experiences, and practical advice for students and alum preparing to enter the workforce. We encourage you all to stay engaged throughout the session, listen for insights, and feel free to use the chat to ask any questions as we go along. And with that, I will pass the mic over to Tony.
Thank you for that warm introduction. So, hello everyone. My name is Tony De Leon, and I'm proud to introduce myself as a WGU alumnus. I completed my bachelor's in business administration and later went on to continue my education with a master's in human resource management. But for me, honestly, WGU was not just about earning the degrees. It helped me change the way I saw myself, the way I approached my career, and the way I understood my values as a professional. Before I reached this point, I was working as an HR generalist for close to a decade. And for those of you who know what an HR generalist does, in that role, I was doing a little bit of everything: employee relations, payroll questions, policy compliance, leave of absence, and helping managers navigate difficult conversations. I had the experience, and I knew I was learning, but I also knew I wanted more. I wanted to pull the business curtain all the way back. I didn't want to only support the HR processes or react to problems after they happen. That's typically what happens in an HR generalist role. I wanted to understand the bigger picture. I wanted to understand business. I wanted to earn a seat at the table where the executives sat. I wanted to learn strategy and how HR could influence decisions at a higher level. That's where WGU made a huge difference for me. My bachelor's in business helped me understand that HR is not separate from business. HR is part of business. Every hiring decision, every payroll decision, compliance, training, leadership affects the organization in full. Its employees, its culture, its long-term success. It's all one ecosystem that, one bad decision affects everyone. My master's in human resource helped me go deeper. It made me stronger, and it also helped me how I think about leadership, employee relations, employment law, workforce planning, compliance, training, and organizational strategy. It gave me the structure around things I already was seeing at the workplace, and it helped me connect the real HR issues to the business principles and practical solutions, if that makes any sense. Over time, that changed how I showed up professionally also. One of the things that WGU really helped me with was to become more confident in the rooms where once I might have second guessed myself. It helped me develop the confidence, the business understanding, a strategic voice, not to only speak with executives, but to become one. So today, I serve as an executive leader. I advise business owners, I train managers, I support organizations with California employment law, I lead compliance initiatives, I guide payroll, wage, and hour strategies, and make recommendations that affect both people and business operations. WGU helped me move from being someone who supports HR processes to someone who helps shape HR strategies and influence executive decisions and lead at a higher level. To the WGU students here today, my encouragement is very simple. Do not underestimate the season you're in right now. Every course is building something. You may not see it right away, but over time, you will notice that you think differently, you communicate differently, and you approach problems differently. Don't just complete the assignments, the OAs, the PAs, just to pass them. Connect with your learning to your real life, your workplace, your goals, the type of professional and leader you want to become. So I'm proud to be a WGU alumni because WGU helped me turn my HR experience into HR leadership. It helped me move from a journalist to a director to a consultant to a strategist to now an executive. And with that, I want to transition from my personal journey. Um, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Monique, who will share a little bit more about who we are, what we do, the impact our team is making in our community, and our opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thanks to everybody that joined today and for your interest in STARS therapy services. I will be telling you a little bit about what we do here. I'll try not to make it too long, but essentially, we are an early start program, which means that we work with really young ages. We work with an age group that ranges from 0 to 8 years old. So they're really young babies, they're pre crawlers, and we provide a variety of services. We provide infant education, ABA, Project Impact. We have a team of OTs and speech therapists, as well as physical therapy. We also do intake assessments, amongst other things too. Right now, we are actually hiring for a few positions. So, anybody looking for employment, definitely listen up now. We are hiring for an early interventionist, a behavior specialist, and an ABA supervisor. So, if you're in the San Diego region and you are interested in child development, psychology, education, anything related to that, I would welcome you to apply. And I'll tell you a little bit more about each position. So, the early interventionist is responsible for providing infant education to our kiddos ages 0 to 3. These are the kiddos that are showing developmental delay. So maybe they're not hitting their milestones just yet. What we do to help the child and their family is we go into the home and we provide play therapy. So you would think, oh, how is playing with a child going to help with their development? Well, how else would you teach a baby that's not crawling yet and that's not speaking yet, right? So we play with them and we use other different strategies as well as parent education to really help the family dynamic help their child in their development. So whatever we apply during the sessions, we also encourage the parents to apply outside of the session so that we have that continuity. So that's what the early interventionist does. Infant education is going to be an hour-long session. So on a regular day, you may see up to 5 or 6 families. We do the services in the home. This would be the natural environment of the child. It allows for their development to progress a bit better than, in a strange area that they wouldn't know or somewhere that feels clinical. Some kids can feel a bit anxious about environments like that. So we go in the home. All of our families have already been approved to receive in-home services by their service coordinator. We're a vendor of the San Diego Regional Center, so all the families have been assessed and approved for these services. So that's the role of an early interventionist. I would suggest someone apply to this if they're specifically interested in working with a really young age group, 0 to 3, and interested in child development. The other entry-level position that we are hiring for is going to be for a behavior specialist. So this is going to be specific to ABA services. This person is responsible for working with kids a little bit older, but still very young, ages 2 to 8 years old. These kiddos are showing red flags for autism where they may already have a diagnosis. They get diagnosed around the age of 2 or 3 years old. And after they turn 3 years old, they transfer over to or ABA service. So this service is 2 hours long. Similar to infant education, we provide play therapy, parent education, really provide that guidance for the parent to deal now instead of a developmental delay with a behavior of the child, maladaptive behaviors, eloping, things like that. This is a little bit of a longer session. It's going to be 2 hours long, which in comparison to other ABA sessions, it's much shorter because our kids are really young kids. Other ABA sessions at other agencies may run for the whole day, maybe 8 hours long. But with us, it's only 2 hours long because you're dealing with a baby and their attention span is not as long, or they may need to take naps. They're only human. So they are 2 hours long, about 2 or 3 times a week, depending on what the family has been approved for. Also an in-home service that we provide. And the other position that we are hiring for is going to be for an ABA supervisor. So this is going to be the person that oversees those behavior specialists. They provide that parent training to really apply the strategies that we teach the parents during sessions, and just provide a bit more guidance and direction, as well as to have some responsibility with assessments and guidance with the team as well. That position, you do require some ABA experience. Preferably, you are seeking higher education, maybe getting your master's degree and looking to complete your BCBA exam. But the other two positions are entry level, so anybody that's a graduate looking for work, I would encourage any of you to apply. I did also want to mention that we have a few perks here at STARS. Not only do we provide full-time and part-time positions, we offer a benefit package including health benefits, PTO, sick time, 401k, life insurance, all the good things. But what has really mattered to me and has really made a difference here is our collaborative team. We have a really supportive leadership that are willing and eager to help our team. So, like I was telling you guys, we are hiring for these entry level positions, but something that we offer here is not just a job, we offer a career. So, you're able to transition into higher positions and really move up that ladder. Whilst at other agencies, you may just have your behavior specialist role, nothing in between, and then BCBA. So there's really no room for growth there. Here, we like to make sure that we're providing opportunities for our staff. We care for them to grow in their careers. So from an early interventionist or a behavior specialist, you can grow into a lead position to become an assessor, to move on to an associate clinical coordinator, to move up to a clinical coordinator, and eventually become a BCBA. That's something that you're looking forward to. We also always encourage our staff to seek higher education, so we are able to accommodate your schedules depending on your school schedule. So maybe you're on summer break and you have full-time availability, but come the fall, you receive your schedule and your classes, you're able to submit an availability change form, and we are more than happy to accommodate for that and work around your schedule. So you wouldn't have to work when you have class, which makes it a little bit easier to complete your degrees. And we do other fun things as well. We get invited to different events. We do volunteer work, lots of bonding activities. Just last year, we went to a Padres game. We were in the home run deck, and we have Taco Tuesday, which definitely helps the week go by a little bit smoother. And they're very yummy. So we have lots of perks here. We honestly have a really great team. I'm very lucky to be part of this team, and I would encourage anybody to apply so that you can get a little taste of STARS as well. But that is my spiel on STARS Therapy Services and what we do here. Now I'll hand it off to Tony once more so that he can provide some guidance on interview etiquette.
Thanks, Monique. now that Monique has shared a little bit about stars and what we do and the opportunities available, we want to spend the next few minutes talking about giving you some secrets of the pros, right? How to put your best foot forward when applying and interviewing, not only at stars but any position. This is especially important if you're entering a field for the first time, or let's say applying for a role like a behavioral therapist, where professionalism, communication, reliability, patience stand out, right? They really matter. But this can be used for any job you're applying for. So I want to break this down into three important parts. The first is having a clean resume. Second, strong phone etiquette. And the third part, the final part, is hitting a home run interview, right? That's the core of it. The way I like to explain it is like this. Your resume will get you noticed. Your phone screening will get you considered, right? And your interview gets you remembered. So let's decompose it. Let's start with the resume part. Your resume is usually the employer's first impression of you, right? And I want to share this from an HR side. I'm going to take off the executive side, share it from an HR perspective. When employers or recruiters are reviewing resumes, we get hundreds of resumes a day. So we're usually not spending 5 or 10 minutes reading every single word during the first review. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're scanning resumes quickly, sometimes in under 10 seconds. We are deciding whether we want to keep reading. Now, that may sound harsh, but it's the reality of hiring. Employers may be reviewing many resumes in one day. So your resume needs to be clean, organized, and easy to understand. The first goal of your resume is not to get you hired on the spot. That's not the point. The first goal of your resume is to make that employer want to keep reading. So what are we looking for? When Monique and I are scanning resumes, we're looking for your name. We're looking for your contact information, your experience, your education, your training, any certifications or skills that connect you with the role that we're trying to fill. So let's take, for example, a behavioral therapist role where we may be looking for experience working with children, you know, customer service experience, caregiving experience, tutoring, coaching, volunteering, or anything that shows patience, communication, responsibility, reliability, and willingness to learn. And I want to make this point very clear. If you don't have direct experience, in whatever job you're trying to apply for yet, that doesn't mean you have nothing to offer. If you worked in customer service, for example, that may show communication, patience, and problem solving, right? Um, if you helped care for a younger sibling or a family member, that may show responsibility um, with children, right? Or that you're comfortable working around with children. If you volunteered or coached or tutored or worked in a school setting, those experiences also matter. So we look at those. The key is helping the employer quickly understand how your background connects to the role they are trying to fill. So now let's talk about a few resumes, do's and don'ts. We're going to start off with the do's. So do keep your resume clean, simple, and easy to read. Do use your headings, bullet points. Make sure your formatting is consistent. No calligraphy, no handwriting. Um, do use professional email addresses, nothing, you know, unprofessional. Do make sure your phone number is correct. You'd be surprised how many times we see people enter the wrong phone number. Do make sure your voicemail sounds appropriate in case that employer calls. Um, and definitely proofread your resume before submitting it. Check for spelling mistakes, grammar issues, incorrect dates, outdated information, or formatting problems, right? For the most entry level candidates, A one-page resume is usually enough. And simple fonts like Arial, Calibri, or Times New Roman are usually the best. That's usually what we're looking for. Now let's move on to the don'ts. Do not use unprofessional email addresses, and we won't go into some of the ones that we've seen. Um, don't lie or embellish your experience. Do not submit a resume with outdated contact information or incorrect dates. Do not use a resume that is so busy or overly designed that the employer has a hard time trying to understand it. Avoid too many graphics, photos, colors, icons, text boxes, or complicated templates. They may look nice, but they do make the resume harder to read. And a lot of us use what's called an ATS, an applicant tracking system, that automatically scans the resumes for us and gives you a rating from 0 to 10. And if you have a picture and it's kind of all over the place and you got handwriting fonts, that ATS will automatically kick that resume as a rejected resume. You might be the best candidate in the world, but we'll never see your resume. So keep it simple. You know, the resume should make the employer think, I want to learn more about this person. So that brings us to the second part, the phone screening. And now I'm going to bring Monique in for this part.
Yes, so once your resume gets noticed, the next step may be a phone screen or a short introductory call. This is often a first live impression with the employer. And during the phone screen, the employer is not only listening to your answers, they are also listening to your tone, your energy, your professionalism, your clarity, and whether your answers match what you listed on your resume. So the phone screen etiquette truly matters. If you're expecting a call from an employer, try to be somewhere quiet, answer the phone professionally. Something simple like, hello, this is Monique, is perfectly fine. Try not to answer while you're driving, ordering food, talking to friends, or somewhere loud if you can avoid it. If the call does come at a bad time, it is completely okay to answer professionally, and you can say something like, hey, thanks for calling. I'm very interested in speaking with you, but I'm currently somewhere loud. Is there a better time today or later when I can call you back from a quieter place? That is much better than trying to rush through an important call while distracted. And also know what job you applied for. If you are applying to multiple jobs, which many of us do, keep a simple list with the company name, the positions, and why you applied. You don't want to answer the phone and sounding confused, saying something like, what company is this for? What job is this for? During a phone screen, you may be asked questions like, tell me about yourself. Why did you apply for the position? Can you walk me through your experience? What is your availability? Are you comfortable with the schedule and the job expectations? What interested you about the company? One of the most important questions you should prepare for is, why did you apply for this job? A weak answer would be, I just need a job. That may be honest, but it does not tell the employer why you are interested in the role. A stronger answer would be something like, I applied because I'm interested in working with children and families, and I want to grow in the role where communication, patience, and reliability matter. I'm also interested in learning more about the field and developing professionally. That type of answer shows preparation, interest, and maturity. So remember, your resume may get the employer's attention, but your communication during the phone screen helps determine whether they want to move forward with you.
Thanks, Monique. Very well said. Now let's talk about the third part. So this is the hitting a home run during the interview, right? A home run interview doesn't mean you answer every question perfectly. It means you show up prepared, professionally, honest, and really interested about the position. Um, Before the interview, review the job posting. Look at what the employer is asking for. Look at the responsibilities, the required skills, the qualities that they want in a candidate. Many employers will tell you exactly what they're looking for in the job posting. That doesn't mean you should lie or pretend to be someone you're not, by the way. But if the job posting says they're looking for someone patient, dependable, compassionate, and comfortable working with children, and those qualities honestly describe you, be ready to talk about that during your interview. You should also learn about the company, visit their website, learn what they do, how they serve the community, and what their mission is. If you're interviewing with STARS, for example, you should understand that we work with supporting children and families. That matters because when you understand the role and the mission, your answers will sound more thoughtful, um, and more connected, right? So first impressions also matter. If the interview is in person, be prepared. Map out your route the night before. Plan to arrive at least 10 minutes early. Know where to park. Dress professionally. Practice good hygiene. Bring a notepad and pencil. If the interview is virtual, test your camera, your audio, your lighting, your background. Make sure that you're in a quiet place, ready to focus for this, right? And remember, the interview begins before the first question, even before the first question, right? So an employer may notice how you walk in, how you greet people, how you spoke to the front desk, how you sit, and whether you look prepared. We look at that, especially like Monique and I, when we're coming downstairs to meet a candidate and we're sitting them, watching them sit there in the waiting room, we're already making an assessment about whether this person would be a good organizational fit. How are they dressed? How are they, sitting? So remember, your interview begins before even the first question. Um, so when you meet the interviewer, greet them respectfully. Something simple, hey, good morning. My name's Tony. Thank you for inviting me in today. It's nice to meet you. Shake hands. That may sound simple, but it shows appreciation, confidence, and professionalism. Now, one of the most important interview questions is usually the first one right out the gate, right? Without looking at your resume, tell me about yourself, right? I'm sure many of you have heard this. So this isn't the time to give them your entire life story, right? It's also not the time to repeat every detail in your resume. They've already read it. Your answer should be short, a short professional introduction that connects who you are, what your experience or qualities you bring to the table, and why you're interested in this role. So, for example, someone might say, uh, my name is Tony De Leon, and I'm interested in starting a career where I can support children and their families. I have experience working with children through babysitting, volunteer work, and that helped me build patience, communication skills, and responsibility. I applied for this position as a behavioral therapist because I'm interested in learning more about the field and being part of a team that helps children develop important skills, something along those lines, right? That answer is clear, professional, connects who you are to the position they're trying to fill. Another important tip is know your resume. It might sound simple, but if you listed something on your resume, be ready to talk about it. We're going to ask you about your past jobs, your dates of employment, your responsibilities, the reason for leaving that place, or any skills you listed. Your answers should match the resume. Your resume is going to get you the interview, but your answers need to match the resume that got you there, right? Um, Many times, Monique and I will bring up a job and they'll say, "Oh yeah," and it's almost like they had amnesia. They forgot they put that down, or they forgot what they did at that job. Or sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I worked at this other place. Interesting. It's not on the resume." Oh yeah, that's an outdated resume. To us, we're looking that we're gonna note that. Um, so you should always be ready to answer what's on that paper. Another thing you should be ready for, is answering structured questions, right? These questions help uh, people like Monique and I understand how you think, how you communicate, how you respond under pressure, and whether you may be a good fit for the role or not. So, for a role like a behavioral therapist, an employer may be listening for patience. We may be listening for emotional maturity, professionalism, or coachability, right? If you're asked a question, excuse me, and you don't have a direct experience, don't fake it. A strong answer can still show honesty and willingness to learn. I mean, you can say something like, I do not currently have direct experience with that specific situation, but I'm willing to learn, and apply uh, training provided. As someone new to the field, that would follow company procedure, ask for guidance from my supervisors, and stay calm and professional. Um, that type of answer shows that you're honest, thoughtful, and trainable. Um, and in many entry level roles, coachability is one of the most important qualities that we look for. Um, for behavioral questions, we like to hear what's called the STAR method, right? Behavioral questions usually start with, tell me about a time. Tell me about a time you dealt with a difficult customer. Um, Tell me about a time you had to stay calm under pressure. Tell me about a time you received feedback that you might have not liked, right? So that's where we're going with STAR. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. Situation means what was happening. Task means what you were responsible for. Action means what did you do? And results means what happened or what did you learn? So the STAR method kind of helps you stay organized and prevents you from rambling. Um, so, for example, if asked about staying calm during a difficult situation, tell me about a time you had to stay calm during a difficult situation. You might say, in my previous customer service job, a customer became upset because their order was incorrect. My responsibility was to listen professionally and help resolve the issue. I stayed calm. I used active listening without interrupting. I apologized for the confusion and explained what I could do to help. The customer then calmed down and we were able to correct the issue. That experience taught me the importance of patience, tone, and professionalism. That answer works because it gives a complete story and shows maturity.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's talk about what to avoid. Please avoid bad mouthing previous employers, managers, coworkers, customers, or clients. Even if you had a difficult experience, stay professional. Avoid saying things like, my boss was terrible, or my coworkers were lazy, or that company was a mess. Employers may wonder how you will talk about their company in the future. Also, avoid sounding unreliable. Do not say things like, I'm always late, or I call out a lot, or I don't like strict attendance policies. In roles that support children, families, and teams, reliability really matters. Avoid sounding uninterested. Do not say, I don't really know what this company does, or I applied to a bunch of jobs, or what position is this again? And avoid oversharing personal problems. You can be honest without sharing too much personal information. At the end of the interview, excuse me, the employer will usually ask, do you have any questions for us? You should always have a few thoughtful questions ready. Good questions include, what qualities help someone succeed in this role? What type of training and support is provided? What does a typical day look like? How does the team support new employees? What are the next steps in the hiring process? Those questions show interest, maturity, and curiosity about the role. Finally, close the interview professionally. You can say something like, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I enjoyed learning more about the position and the work your team is doing. I'm very interested in the opportunity and I look forward to hearing about the next steps. And after the interview, if you can, send a short thank you email the same day or within 24 hours. It does not have to be very long. Just thank them for their time, mention the position, restate your interest, and close professionally. So, to bring everything together, your resume gets you noticed, your phone screen gets you considered, and your interview gets you remembered. A strong candidate is not perfect. A strong candidate is prepared, honest, professional, coachable, and ready to learn. As you enter the field, remember that employers are not only looking at where you are today, they are also looking at your potential, your attitude, your communication, and your willingness to grow. And if you can show those qualities throughout the hiring process, you give yourself a much stronger chance of standing. So that is our presentation. Those are our tips and tricks for interview and application etiquette. Do I hand it off to Tony or Ariel?
Oh, yeah, I can jump in. I just wanted to say thank you both so much for Tony for sharing about your career journey, and to the both of you just for sharing such like real practical advice for folks that are navigating this extremely saturated job market. I really appreciate you all breaking down each piece of, the job application and interviewing process. And I think it's just so valuable to hear from the both of you that are like reviewing resumes and interviewing folks on a day to day. And definitely a good reminder for folks that are joining this session on, different pieces of the application and interviewing process that maybe they didn't think of. One piece for me that I appreciated was like not answering a call while you might not be in a professional setting. I've admittedly was like, "Oh, I don't wanna miss this call, but I'm stuck here, so, like, let me answer this," and I really, like, looking back, I'm like, "I should have just said exactly how you put it, Monique, and saying, how about if we reschedule, can I give you a call back at a time that works better for you?" And I think I ended up scheduling an interview for a time that was, like, not aligning with my schedule. So, yeah, really such great and practical advice. I did want to open up um, questions. If folks had any, please type them up here in the chat. Um, and then you shared those really exciting roles at STARS. And I was able to find the careers page for that and shared it here in the chat. Um, Let me see here. I did want to ask what skills or experiences might help candidates stand out when applying for some of the roles that you mentioned?
Sure. So, because the behavior specialist and the early interventionist roles are entry level, we actually don't require any specific experience. But if I am reviewing a resume, like Tony said, what really stands out to me is that formatting and seeing that they have an interest in child development, education, or psychology. So even if they've done volunteer work or they've been a teacher's aide, maybe they've been a nanny in the past, something similar to that definitely helps a candidate stand out. Also, if they are studying psychology or child development, something like that, that definitely helps to boost them up. But at the end of the day, when going through the application process and the interview, what stands out to me and what matters the most to us is personality and willingness to work with children and their families. Someone that is eager and has that right personality to be on the floor playing with the child and has that motivation to want to help others. So that's really what we look for at the end of the day, and that's really what helps somebody stand out amongst other candidates.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've heard that from multiple recruiters and HR managers that sometimes if there's like a specific, experience like listed that might not like translate directly on your resume, there might be something like a situational. I liked the caregiver example that Tony had listed. So it really is sort of like really looking at the big picture of your volunteer experience, life experience, and your professional experience, and aligning it with the job description. We did get a question from Ginny. What is the ideal timeline to follow up on an application without being disruptive?
Sure. I don't think any candidate that reaches out is disruptive. By the way, disruptive is subjective, right, to to everyone. But I think that a 3 day, if I was to use a general rule of thumb, I would say if you haven't heard from them in 3 days, it does not hurt to send out a follow up email, showing your interest in the position and see how the process is moving along. Now, remember, uh, sometimes we're reviewing hundreds of resumes a day, and that's on top of our day in the life of duties, right? We could have other competing priorities. So to answer your question, it's a great question, by the way. I appreciate that. 3 days, I would say you could follow up.
Thank you so much for that, Tony. I do think, yeah, it's one of those where it's like, if you didn't ask the question at the end of the interview, what does the timeline look like? Sometimes you're kind
Mhm.
of in an awkward, oh, when should I reach back
Yeah,
out to ask, like, when should I hear back? Or what does the timeline look like? So really appreciate that. Looks like we have another question. Is it acceptable to connect with hiring managers on LinkedIn before submitting an application?
I would say absolutely. I think it does depend on the hiring manager and what they prefer, but I personally prefer a cold email. It really helps a candidate stand out to me. I mean, it comes right in my inbox and you can express your interest. You can share your resume with a hiring manager directly if you are able to find their email. So that's something that I always prefer. Every single person that um, comes my way through my inbox gets a response from me, and the majority of them get a phone screening. So that's something that I would definitely encourage if you are able to find that contact. Always reach out and put yourself out there.
sure. It also shows interest in the position. I myself as well, when I have candidates reach out to me on LinkedIn or any platform that I'm on, as long as it's a professional communication, I do appreciate that, and I typically do respond. And since I don't actually do the hiring, I would redirect them to Monique, give them, or her the contact information, and kind of lead them in the right direction.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that advice. I think in any case, I'm big on networking personally. So I'm like, if you have a really great conversation with a hiring manager, my perspective is I'll always send a LinkedIn request. The worst thing that can happen is they don't accept it or it just sits in their inbox for a while. So, yeah,
Sure.
really appreciate you both on your tips and advice there. Um, are there any more questions? If not, I did have a question for Tony. As a WGU alum, what might be like one last piece of advice that you have for students and alum that are on the call as they navigate their job search?
Um, that's a great question. Um, and this is something that I had to remind myself, especially during my undergrad. Uh, for context, I hate math, by the way. So when I had all those math classes, I thought this is the hill where I die on, right? My advice to you all, night owls, remember why you started. You picked up the phone and you called them for a reason. So remember that part and push forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tony. That's such, yeah, real advice, especially for folks that are in it, trying to, progress to their next class, move on to, that finishing their degree. Yes, remembering why you started is such a huge piece of advice. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we can wrap up for today. Thank you both so much for joining. You both were such fantastic presenters, so inspiring. I'm leaving this session just, feeling so energized from the conversation. We really appreciate you both and your support for WGU, for our students and our alum. Um, I will be sending out a brief questionnaire just after this session, as well as the recording from today's session. Um, Please just take a quick minute to fill out that questionnaire. And then if you have any piece from this session that you want to review, we'll post it up on our YouTube channel at WGU Career and Professional Development Services. Thank you both again for your time. Thank
Thank
you
you.
to those of you that were able to make it. We hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Monique. Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.